Hello everyone, and welcome back to Fable-top episode 12, where you guys kind of know us. You know we play in 3 games. You know Diddy DMs for me, you know I DM for Diddy. But we've never talked about ourselves more than our experience and time playing D&D. So today, we have arranged a few questions that we're going to take turns asking each other. So we get to know each other a little bit better, and you get to know us a little bit better. So, who wants to start?
You ask me a question first.
Okay, so first question I've got down, pretty basic. What got you into Dungeons and Dragons?
It was outside Xbox with their Oxventures recordings.
Is that because you look like the DM?
Yes, you have told me that I look like Johnny from Eurogamer.
You do.
Yeah, I obviously I was a fan of the channel. I used to watch their videos, and then they started doing D&D stuff, and I was just like, I've seen like D&D in pop culture and stuff. So let's see what this is like, and then watched every single episode they brought out since. And then I think it was maybe 6 months down the line, after they'd done a few sessions, I saw that the starter set was on offer on Amazon. So I thought, why not? And just bought it.
Oh, that's fair enough. I mean, I'm much the same as you, that my introduction to I was aware of D&D. I've made mention before about that guy Conrad I used to go to school with. That I used to take the piss out of for it, but it was actually Team 4-Star, the people who do the Dragon Ball Z Abridged. They had a section in one of their live streams called D&D at the Table, where they played a Homebrew campaign by Chris Zabot. And I was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. Like, I didn't understand what the fuck was going on. Like, they were rolling dice and shouting out numbers, and occasionally people would cheer. And I was like, okay, that seems fairly interesting. And then I searched D&D podcasts and found a series by Matt Colville explaining like how to D&D, like how to DM and all that. And funnily enough, straight after that, I came across an episode where he had Chris Perkins in, who is was one of the main writers of Wizards of the Coast. And he's like, yeah, you know, I'm in this game for Penny Arcade called Aquisitions Incorperated. And spent the better part of 3 weeks of my life watching every episode of Aquisitions Incorporated.
Yeah.
And from then, I just decided this is something I wanted to be a part of. Which probably was a little bit to your detriment, because when we started running the Acquisitions Incorporated book, I'm sitting here like, because I know what's going on, but I can't say anything.
Yeah, because your character has no idea what's going on, but you know everything.
Oh, it's fucking great. Funny thing is, I think in a couple of videos down the line, I actually do want to talk about like D&D live streams and that. But we'll leave that for another episode. But if you want to fire off your first question.
Okay, very simple. What's your favourite class?
Ooh. I think in your mind, you probably would assume I'd go straight for the rogue. I'm not gonna lie, I probably would have to say cleric.
Okay.
Like, rogues are fun and broken in so many ways, but playing a cleric was the first time I stepped out of, like, a predominantly offensive role. And just the versatility of a cleric, like your healing spells, the buffs and debuffs, like, and you do get offensive magic. Like the high AC and the fact that if you need to throw a punch, you can throw a punch. I'd have to say, yeah, I'd say a cleric. But what about yourself?
Well, I like doing 2 things. A basic bitch and a meme lord.
So what's your basic bitch choice?
Fighter.
Yeah, you have mentioned that before. You had 2 characters before Horatio. And if I'm remembering correctly, one of those was a fighter.
Yes, the other one was a bard.
Yes.
Which is the meme lord.
The meme. You kind of have to be if you're a bard.
Yeah. Seduce the dragon. It's part of your destiny if you're a bard. Seduce the dragon.
Yeah. It's a reputation and a standard you have to uphold. But if you had to pick a favourite out of those two.
Oh. It'd have to be the fighter, because it's just easy. Like, dump everything in strength, whack it with a big stick, do some damage.
Yeah, I mean, I've never played a fighter. Actually, no, that's not true. When Zenfire ran his one shot, I actually played a Leonin fighter whose martial archetype was samurai. But other than that, yeah, no.
Yes, I remember that.
His name was meant to be Hokkaido, but I kept calling him Haikodo. So then I was like, fuck it, his name's Terrence. That was a good laugh, though.
Yeah.
So my next question kind of comes alongside the question you just asked about classes. Who was your first ever character?
My first ever character was a half-orc fighter folk hero called Arden Brightwood. I've mentioned it before.
I was going to ask if it's the same.
Yeah, that was my first ever character.
And he was taken in by a rich family, wasn't he? Was set to inherit the estate and.
No, he was. He was found by a human village, taken in by the blacksmith. A tax collector came along to collect some taxes. People didn't have enough money, so the tax collector started hitting people. This 13-year-old half-orc who's already like 6'5", whacks the tax collector off his horse. He gets taken to the Lord. The Lord is like, this kid's 13. Yeah, I'll have him in my ranks, thanks. Brings him in, kind of makes him the protege squire to the Lord. Everyone else around the Lord was a bit pissed off. And then when the Lord died, they kind of just chucked him out. And he's had to make his own way since then.
Is he a character that you're still playing now, or is he like a retired character?
No, he's a retired character.
No, that's fair. My first character I've made a few references to. He is the monk I had in my first lot of monthly games. I know there's probably been a bit of confusion. So I was in 2 monthly games. The monk was in one that ended, and there's currently another one. Locke was probably the most stereotypical background I've written for a character. His parents left him in a desert. They were on the run, and they literally just dumped him in a desert, where he was picked up by a fire ganassi called Ascara, who took him to a monastery in the middle of the desert, which was made up of like fire ganassi, dragonborn, and he was raised in the way of the monk. And then he hit 21, and he was like, you know what? Like, I appreciate all you've done for me, but I'm not a monk. Like. I have the physicality and the training, but mentally I'm not there. So, thanks, but I'm gone. Yeah, and then I've mentioned before with him, like, I didn't write much of a backstory for him because aside from being raised in the monastery, he knew little to nothing about his lineage, his parents, where he came from. And yeah, it later went on to turn out that he was the heir of Tresendar Manor in the Mines of Phandelver. The DM in that game worked it out that like Tresendar's past and all this shit, the reason the parents drove out was because of an orc attack or something.
Yeah.
He was he's not my favourite character though. Backstory wise, Diego is, but yeah, Locke Blackward was He was my first, but he's not my favourite.
Yeah, it's the same for me. Like Arden Brightwood, he's got probably the best backstory I have ever written.
Yeah.
The most interesting backstory. But no, Horatio is definitely my favourite character.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Just because... just this, like, fuckboy kind of warrior poet kind of thing.
He's got, like, an askew moral compass, and he just lives his life to the fullest.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So, my second question is, why dinosaurs in the fucking monster manual?
Oh, you know what? I couldn't tell you. I think they put them in literally so they could have that one campaign. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one where you go to that town and it's dinosaur races. They have like a grand derby, but they race dinosaurs.
I have never heard of this. What?
I'm gonna Google it real quick. But I remember it from Aquisitions Incorporated. Chris Perkins was like showing it off for the first time. They end up on like some long lost island looking for like a temple ruin. And they land in this town where they've come up into like their yearly festival where like there's professional jockeys who ride dinosaurs, and there's like a grand prize. Let me see if I can find it really quick. I'm overcomplicating this. I think they included dinosaurs just to be able to have this module where you could have dinosaur races.
I just don't. It's like having the modern and futuristic firearms. I just don't get it.
No, I've never understood especially the futuristic ones. Except my mindset on that is you could probably bullshit that they're just like magic. It's just like super focused magic. But then they do outline in the book as well, like alien technology.
Yeah. Like there's a whole paragraph about alien technology and futuristic technology, and just, why? It's a fantasy setting. If you want to go play the Fallout TTRPG, go buy the Fallout TTRPG.
I mean, yeah, you've got like fucking Cyberpunk as well, which is a tabletop. You've got Shadowrun, which I believe was a tabletop as well. I don't know. I mean, I can't really say anything because one of the one-shots I ran months ago was set in like a modern-day fantasy New York where Zen and Gareth played like hard-boiled detective types. I pulled stat blocks up because Gareth's character was a dwarf with a shotgun.
Right.
Which was pretty fucking cool. So I can't knock it too much because I am guilty of using this stuff, but I do get the frustration. When you hear high fantasy, you don't think like M1911.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he casts a fucking guiding bolt. Sick, I whip out an M4. Take that, motherfucker. Gat gat. Oh, blimey. Okay, so my next question is, what is a setting that you've either always wanted to write up or play in?
I have been trying for years to adapt the Terry Pratchett book Going Postal.
I've heard of it, I've never read it. I believe the Postal games are based on that. I think that's why they're called Postal.
I don't think so.
Is it not?
No.
What's the book's about?
You've read Terry Pratchett, have you? Heard of okay, it's a kind of...
I've heard of him and I've heard of the book.
It's a kind of fantasy, but more set around mid to late 1800s. That's kind of the setting.
Nothing to do with the Postal games.
Yeah. Basically, the basic plot is a criminal / con man has been spared the death penalty and tasked with reviving a town's post office. The post office originally went out of business because of a system called the Clacks, which is like a bunch of semaphore towers that are able to send messages very fast. Problem is, the guy who owns these towers is very corrupt and very evil.
Oh, okay.
And so yeah, this con man uses con man-esque methods to be able to get the post office up and running again, and it's a very interesting story. I would suggest it to anyone.
My only question upon hearing that summary is, why was a con man getting the death sentence?
That's a good question. What did he do? I think he like stole from the he made the basically like the central bank collapse because he was forging like bonds and stuff.
Oh, so it was like a count of treason or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I'm not gonna lie, I don't have an answer to my own question. Purely because I'm kind of writing it up right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I assume you're gonna run it for me.
You're in it.
Oh, brilliant. Yep.
Yeah, Ekathar's Tower and the whole Acromore Cult.
Oh, that, yes.
Yeah, that's what I had in my head for months and spent months working on. Like establishing the world and all that. So, I can't answer my own question because I'm currently living it.
Fair enough. So, another question I had is, do you think that Critical Role has created unrealistic expectations for new players?
Funny. That's one of my questions as well, funny enough. Yeah, I do. Anyone who's watched this or knows anything about Critical Role and D&D is a thing called the Matt Mercer effect, which I genuinely believe should not have such a specific name tied to it. It's not Matt Mercer's fault that people watch this and then they have this immediate, unrealistic expectation that every DM is going to have a Matt Mercer level story that has, I don't know the specifics, but I'm fairly sure he has someone help him write who was like a professional writer. I could be wrong on that. I'm not going to... But they have a production cast behind them, so... And they're all professional voice actors, everyone on that cast. Yeah. And I think new players look at that and then they overestimate their own ability to roleplay. They overestimate their DM's ability or want to go that far. And the reason I don't think it should be tied solely to Matt Mercer is because you've got people like Brennan Lee Mulligan from Dimension 20, who is also a fantastic DM. Chris Perkins, who literally writes for Wizards of the Coast. Jeremy Crawford, his best mate, who is one of the head writers for Rules on Wizards of the Coast. Both of them DM'd Acquisitions Incorporated. Jeremy Crawford still does. And Matt Colville. Like, people who look at these people as sources of inspiration and guidance, I believe compound all of this and then put an absolutely astronomical standard on their first ever game.
Yeah. Like, I think people who will watch an episode of Critical Role and they'll watch a few of them, they'll start to play D&D thinking, oh, it's going to be this massively over the top, everyone's going to be laughing all of the time and there's going to be so many different voices and we're going to be bouncing off each other so much. It just doesn't happen.
No, not at all. And it's no one's fault at the end of the day, because Matt Mercer, like, a lot of people don't realise this as well, Matt Mercer didn't start DMing for Twitch or YouTube. The Critical Role Campaign 1 started when they were at level 5. They've already had adventures in a private game. I've lost my train of thought with this one. But yes, like, Dimension 20, Critical Role, Aquisitions Incorporated, they are, for all intents and purposes, set for entertainment. They're not meant to be a example or a role model.
Yeah.
Like, you might take inspiration from what they've done, what they've said, but it's like what we've said previously with like the player's handbook, or the Dungeon Master's guide. It's not set in stone fact, it's not the be all end all, and neither are their streams.
Yeah, like, especially like Full Critical Role, they've got to try and make it really over the top because they've got the algorithm to compete with. Yeah. They're trying to create these really spectacular things that people are going to be drawn to, but when you're just playing a simple game of Dungeons & Dragons, it's not like that. You don't need to do all of that.
That's what I said in, I can't remember if it was episode 7 or 8, at the end of it when I spoke about when we first started playing as a group. I said coming in, like, I was well aware of the Matt Mercer effect. I was well aware that, it's not going to be Critical Role. And because I knew that and I was well aware of it, I've enjoyed myself thoroughly so far. And I think that's one thing people should really realise, that they're essentially putting DMs on pedestals.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not fair on people like Matt Mercer, who then get blamed for this, like, phenomenon. But,
yeah.
Okay, so on a lighter note, what do you think would be a great song to play during a session? Like, what do you think would be, like, either a great battle song or a roleplay piece? Like, just what do you think would make a great song?
For starters, for battles, just Dovahkiin. Just that on repeat. Yeah. Well, you make a meme. You play All Star. If you're doing a battle in D&D, you play Dovahkiin. It's the go-to.
Oh man. Okay. So then, what about like a role-playing thing, or just like?
I guess just tavern music, just ambient tavern music, or just like the Oblivion or Skyrim soundtrack.
Yeah, that's something when I used to play my first game, when I DM'd for my girlfriend and 2 friends. I literally just put the Oblivion soundtrack on in the background. Again, this is something, like, even though I writ the question, I kind of writ the question and left it.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where I'm probably going to have to make a cut because I'm going to be sat here for a little while trying to think of a... there was one song in... fuck me. In Dark Souls, in the first Dark Souls game, the gargoyle fight on top of the cathedral has a really, really good battle track to it. Like, I don't know if you've played or heard the song.
I have never played Dark Souls or heard it.
I'll send you a link afterwards. But it opens up with like this like orchestral wind up, and then this woman just starts belting like high operatic notes.
Okay.
And it's so good. It's powerful. It's energetic. Like, it's tense. Like, I can't remember the name of the track, but if you just go onto YouTube and type in Dark Souls 1 Gargoyle Fight song, it'll be there. And then, yeah, I've kind of answered the second half of this as well, where, yeah, like, the Oblivion soundtrack for anything outside of combat.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, one bit of praise I want to give Lee as well is we had a fight in the Abyss at one point. And what I thought was really clever that he did is he took the soundtrack from Silent Hill 1, which, fun fact, was actually no instruments, just dentist drills that they had tuned and pitched.
Right.
And it's really fucking unsettling, and the Abyss is meant to be really unsettling. And he played that track, and I thought that was a stroke of genius.
So, my last question is something I've always thought is, I think spells for wizards, sorcerers, warlocks, it should be open, like bard spells. Any spells should be open to wizards, sorcerers, and warlocks. I think.
I think specific spells, because I know some spells do overlap. I don't know. The way I've kind of seen magic is like, you know, wizards go to school and are trained in the schools of magic, and then they like specialize in one or two of them. So it makes sense that only they would have the knowledge of this. I don't see any reason why. Okay, so what I would say is you keep the spell list separate, but there should be no reason why a warlock can't learn a wizard spell.
Yeah.
Because it still draws on magic. But I don't think innately through leveling they should have them just inserted onto their list. I think they should be able to learn what they want, but there is the limitation of at least for the first few levels they are strictly stuck with their.
Yeah, like I think more specific spellcasters like bards and druids and clerics, they should have their own specific class spells, but specific spellcasting classes like wizard, warlock, and sorcerer should just be able to learn everything, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a problem with that myself. I've only ever played a cleric, so I can't speak for warlocks and sorcerers and wizards, but I don't think there are game-breaking spells that a warlock has that, given to a wizard, would ruin the game kind of thing. I don't think there's anything like that. But yeah, I agree with you that like class-specific things, so like Hexblade Curse or Bardic Inspiration should stay in those classes, but things like Fly and all that, they should just like hang in this ether of like, oh, I want to learn that, and just pluck it out.
Like is the spell cards that you can buy. There's a spell. There's a whole box just called Arcane, and it has sorcerer, wizard, and warlock spells in that.
Yeah.
And they should just be able to use all of them.
Yeah, I think this is something I can. Because, I mean, usually when you bring up a point, I try and, you know, like, devil's advocate, give, like, a separate... But no, I'm in agreement with you on this one, I think. Like, there shouldn't be anything, like, a strict limitation.
Yeah.
Like, put a boundary up, something that you can overcome, but...
Like, maybe just say, oh, like, you need to spend... Like, it's like a proficiency that you gain... to like break through that barrier or something.
Yeah, I believe it should just be like, oh, you have the ability to perform magic. That's cool. Here's every spell ever, except these like 7 or 8. Like you, it's the same with like multiclassing and all that as well. Because multiclass is like the one true way of like just knocking down a fucking wall entirely.
Yeah.
But I've mentioned before, I'm not really. I've toyed with the idea of multiclass. I'm just not brave enough to do it just yet. But
I just like create a character like with Horatio. I'm like, fighter. Oh wait. I want to be able to cheese the game. I'll take first level in Bard so I can have distort value as well.
See, that's what I wanted with Diego, because he's an arcane trickster. Even at the highest level, I think the highest that arcane trickster can go is 4th level magic.
Right.
And even then, it is a very specific selection of wizard spells. Like it mostly focuses on like distraction, illusion,
boring.
Yeah, it's the reason my only offensive spell at the moment is Scorching Ray, because it's like the only one I have that actually deals damage.
Isn't it like 1d4?
Scorching Ray is 2d4. You get to fire either 3 beams at one individual. It's kind of like Magic Missile, but you have to roll to hit.
Yeah.
And the damage is greater. that's why I was toying with the idea of, instead of taking a level, putting one into level 1 wizard. But the issue with that is the level 1 wizard spells I've effectively already got. It wouldn't allow much more flexibility. Like, I'd get more spell slots, sure. But there's just, at least for me, not much to gain from it. But then I kind of do what Lee does as well, where if it doesn't make logical reasoning, if there's no logical reasoning for a multi-class, then I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not then going to have Diego take like a level in Barbarian, because it just doesn't make sense to the character. That's my opinion on that.
Okay.
So my last question, which I've had to think of on the fly because you took my question as well. What are your thoughts and opinions on integrating Unearthed Arcana into your stories?
Just bring it in. Yeah, it's fine.
Because I know some people are very touchy on this kind of stuff. Like, it's not official. It's not in a book.
The whole point is it's playtest material.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the whole point. You're supposed to bring it in, see if it works. If it doesn't work, like, let them know.
Yeah, I very much believe, like, if you want to include something in my game that is Unearthed Arcana, or like some kind of homebrew thing like Zenfire's Belt, like, let me review it first, and then I will give you a yes or no. Like, it'll never be a hard no.
Like, it's like EA releasing a Battlefield 19 beta, and people going, "No, we're not going to play that. It's not an official game yet." What are you doing?
The point. I think the only thing I would ever probably not give a hard no to, but would put a lot of time and thought into, would be like UA races, or UA classes as well, because some of the homebrew shit that people come up with are intentionally game breaking. Yeah. So that would be something I would. I made mention in the last episode that I rolled up a character for the off chance that Killian dies against the dragon. That character is technically a homebrew race as well. It's, even though before anyone says, I know tieflings and Fire Ganassi can't interbreed, but I've done the impossible. I've made a miracle child called a Fireborn. I sat for about 3 hours working out like racial features and traits, stats, and even at the end of it, I looked at it and I was like, that's a bit too strong. So I passed it over to Lee to have a look at, and he just looked at it and went, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, as long as it doesn't have wings. I'm like, okay, sick.
All right.
But weapons, items, I would only ask to have a look at first. Maybe tweak a thing or two here and there, and then slide it along.
Yeah. Okay, so last question now. What's your favourite NPC you've created?
Oh, woof.
I think I know the answer to this.
Go on, give me what you think your answer is.
I've forgotten her name, but it's the little girl.
It's Pommel, yeah.
Pommel, that's it.
Pommel is a... I don't want to say too much. Just... I don't know, because I think the more I hang on trying to explain it, the more you're going to realise something's up. So...
I knew something was up from the beginning.
Yeah. So... Pommel is a 12-year-old girl. She is a warlock. Sorry, she was a warlock. And she was a joke character I made. She was a warlock with a greatsword as her pact weapon. If anyone's watched Hunter x Hunter, I basically based her off of Biscuit, but with a greatsword, for anyone who wants to check that out. And she was everything like Diego and Killian aren't. She's very high energy, like just no filter, says what's on her mind, like very much like preteen energy. But because I don't actually plan on further including her into the campaign anymore at this point, I can just explain. So basically, she is not 12 years old. She's actually closer to 212 years old.
Okay.
She was another homebrew race I put in place, where effectively she was created with wild magic. But instead of it affecting her actual magic, every day she would wake up with the potential to lose whatever class she is there, and it would be like a chaos surge, and then she'd become another random class with random stats.
Jesus.
So basically, whenever it was a new day for Pommel, I would open up her character sheet, delete everything, hit randomize, and put her name on it. And it was too much. I kind of threw a hint at it in the third session when everyone joined together, and she was like, oh, check this out, and then she did like a step of the wind across the bridge and back. But yeah, it was a bit too much, so I effectively just wrote her out of the campaign. But Pommel Bunny Pants is still currently my favourite NPC.
Okay.
What about for yourself?
Honor Wellington.
I knew you was going to say it. Well, to be fair, I was expecting Shia LaBeouf, but same person.
Well, Shia LaBeouf isn't an NPC that I created, but Honor Wellington is. So
no, true, that's true.
When we get round to reading out episode 2 of The Lost Mine of Phandelver, the party found Honor Wellington inside Tresendar Manor dungeons, and there was a whole bunch of just hints that he was Shia LaBeouf. First of all, the name Honor, kind of a synonym of praise, and Wellington for beef Wellington, praise of beef, Shia LaBeouf.
We all missed that. We
yeah.
all missed that.
Well, like I said in the previous episode, I wanted to call him Honor Bourguignon, but that would have been a bit too easy, I think.
Yeah, that would have been a bit more on the nose.
So they find him. He's lost all his memory. I think he was like a human ranger.
I don't think he was a ranger because he had a sword.
Okay. Was it like a short sword? I think it might have been a short sword. Pretty sure he was a ranger.
Fuck knows. I don't remember him ever using a bow.
So, at the end of Lost Mine of Phandelver, the BBEG, the Black Spider, turns out to be Zenfire and Honor Wellington's father. The Black Spider says this whole speech that includes a bunch of titles from Shia LaBeouf films, which then activates Shia LaBeouf, and Honor Wellington gets... because Shia LaBeouf was polymorphed into Honor Wellington, so what's like the depolymorphed?
Yeah, he just dropped the concentration on it, and
Yeah.
he just reverted.
And yeah, so Honor Wellington reverted back to the actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
The fucking references didn't end there, though, did they?
No.
Because Zenfire and I were like, oh, Kingdom of the Crystal, see if he's got a crystal skull. And so we fucking scalped him, and he did. Oh, that's even funnier, though, because like when we do get back into the recaps and we go further into the dimension hop thing, we find alternate dimension on a Wellington, and we decapitate him and scalp him again.
But no crystal skull this time.
No crystal skull, no. So I've actually got a question that I thought of when we were discussing Honor Wellington last time. The Black Spider was Zenfire's adoptive father. Was that the same case for Shia LaBeouf? Or was he like an actual... So he wasn't biological?
No. The Black Spider doesn't have any biological children.
Oh no!
Kind of just steals them.
Did you pull down your copy of Fandelver?
I did. It's by here.
What is his name? Let's confirm Black Spider's name, because we said Neznar last time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is Neznar. Neznar the Black Spider. That's what it says on the stat block.
God, can you imagine? You hear about this guy who's like all powerful, like wants Wave Echo Cave and all this shit, you know, could mind control people for basically their entire life, and his name's fucking Neznar.
Neznar.
He's the kid who got bullied in fucking, like, bad guy school.
Wears a parka and goes to Hornby Railway expos. That's all the questions I have.
Yeah, I didn't have any more after that, to be fair. We shared a question, and I had to make one up, but I think this has been a rather insightful episode. Certainly learned more about you. I don't know if you can say the same for me. I mostly rehash stuff I already mentioned.
Yeah.
But thank you all so much for watching anyway. If you have questions you want to ask us, feel free to drop them down below. Other than that, I've been Bonehead.
I've been Diddy.
And we will see you in the next episode. Bye!